How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to Devin the Bear. Today we will be discussing the first pay-per-view card of the year, UFC 270, which was headlined by Francis Ngannou and Ciryl Gane. So before we touch on the main card, there's some fighters we definitely wanted to discuss. I feel like Vanessa Demopoulos definitely stole the show. That was, not only did she come back from getting flattened the way she did by Silviana Gomez Juarez, but I mean, dude, like, she gets an armbar out of nowhere, and I mean, it was just kept her composure, and it was a nice tight armbar. I mean, she was tapping before she was even fully locked in, and but my favorite part about the whole thing was her post-fight interview when Joe Rogan came in and talked to her. That was the most wholesome thing I've,
she was just so happy to be there.
Yeah, she was happy to be there. Get a win. Get to talk to the the man himself, Bro Jogan. And so it was just, I don't know, it was just all around. That was a feel good moment, and so I was really happy to see that.
I saw a meme saying it was the picture of the guy watching the fights where he's standing with his hands on his hips and he's like real close to the TV.
Mm-hmm.
He just looks mad, and it was Joe Rogan's wife watching UFC 270, and it was the picture of Joe Rogan holding Demopoulos.
Oh, for a fact Joe Rogan had to sit cross-legged for a good 5 minutes after that one. No, I'm just talking shit. But yeah, man. So some more good performances we saw was Matt Frevola coming in after losing in 7 seconds to Terrence McKinney. Comes in and defeats Genaro Valdez with in the first round by TKO. Matt Frevola is an all-around good guy, and so it's always exciting watching him fight. And
you try to claim you're Hispanic and you say Valdez.
I honestly, the apostrophe really fucked me up in his name. Well, I don't even claim that. Come on, dude. And I'm just gonna stop right there because it's gonna get really, really non-PC if I keep that shit going. But yeah, man, Matt Frevola is just all around good guy, and it's always exciting watching him fight. He's been around for a little while. He was the Ultimate Fighter alum, and so some more stuff is we saw Jack Della Maddalena come in and get a great counter knockout against Pete Rodriguez. I got that Hispanic last name right. And I mean, what a way to make a debut though, to slip counter like that with that left hook and just put him out cold.
It was very good.
It was all around good, but I think the main thing to talk about with the prelims was the Victor Henry and Rony Barcelos fight.
For sure, Victor Henry came out there and showed that he's a coach fighter.
Yeah,
absolutely perfect performance. Well, I wouldn't say perfect, actually. I'd say the first half of the first round he was looking kind of sloppy. But he made the corrections that his corner gave him, which I'm sure he already knew, and then it was just like a completely different fighter. He went from throwing these kind of wild aggressive hooks to very I'm blanking on the word, very concise strikes that were straight down the middle, completely stopping Rony from throwing his power, and he was controlling that fight with his strikes. And Barcelos took a beating.
Yes,
it was pretty freaking bad.
At some point, I was wondering if Barcelos was. I mean, he showed a warrior spirit, though, man. He did not let off either. The pace that those guys kept was intense. They were going at it from. It was like watching the end of the third round. They were still going at it like it was the beginning of the fight. It was insane.
Especially Henry. He didn't let up a bit.
No. He was full throttle on the gas tank and didn't slow down at all. Like you said, I mean, he's a coach as well, and you saw that he came in and had the right mentality. Listen, he's also a very good student as he is a coach, and made the right adjustments. And I mean, that was for me up until that point, until the main card. That was the fight of the night for me.
Yeah. Up until the co-main event for me, I was like, that was fight of the night. That was so good. It was a really good way to close out the prelims for a very long awaited for pay-per-view.
Yeah.
And then to start the prelims, we had Michael Morales knock out Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles looked really good and just started chasing the knockout, I think, and then got himself knocked out.
Yeah.
But Michael Morales is a big deal. He's a big threat, and we're seeing that pretty early on. He didn't take much time taking over in that fight. The second he had it going his way, he was all over it.
Yeah, Michael Morales, dude, 22 years old, and you walk in there and you just see kind of he still looks kind of like a kid.
Yeah.
And going against a veteran like Trevin Giles, I mean, he weathered the storm. You could tell he was kind of starstruck walking into the octagon. It was a lot to take in. He was kind of slow, so you could tell there was some jitters going on. But the second he connected, he was all over that stuff.
Yeah.
Dude. He did not let up, and he was jumped right on Trevor Giles and got that finish. It was a great debut. There's 3 fighters that made debuts, and they all did phenomenal.
Yeah.
Victor Henry, Maddalena, and Michael Morales. And I'm really excited to see what's next for Morales. I'm excited to see what adjustments he makes for the next fight. I think now that he puts on a performance like that, the jitters won't be there, and we're gonna just see nothing but a better version of himself. So it sucks to see Trevor Giles go down like that. We're big fans of him.
H-Town boy,
yeah.
HPD.
Yep.
Out of War Training Center with Jeremy Mann. It's a good gym. Good guys. Trevor Giles is one of them.
Yeah.
It definitely sucked seeing that. But again, he looked good before that. So
yeah. And he'll be back. He's had some really tough competition leading up to this fight, man. His last fight was against Dricus Du Plessis. And for anybody, that's a tough fight, I mean, so I think now he's down at 170. At one point, they said he used to fight at light heavyweight. He has a win over Ryan Spawn, and so he's just kind of all over the place with his weight classes, but he's still finding success in them. And I'm sure he'll be back, and I'm excited to see him back. And so on to that though, we had a great fight. Well, great performance. That's a better way to put it. A great performance with Saeed Nurmagomedov defeating Cody Stamann by guillotine in less than a minute, 47 seconds. And it was, when you see the last name Nurmagomedov, you just automatically assume, wrestler. But he goes in there, man, and he looked freaking good. He was throwing spinning back kicks to the body. He was not shying away from being very offensive with his striking. And Cody Stamann, I honestly, I think he just didn't really want anything of it at the moment. He just wanted to get comfortable, and he left his neck right open, and that was a tight ninja choke. It was nasty. I mean, by the time they hit the ground, he was already tapping.
Yeah, it was pretty immediate. Cody Stamann's not known for his striking. He's got great wrestling, but he's also got a lot of power. So I think he was wanting to go in there and show that power, but the speed of Saeed definitely got to him first.
He just the high fight IQ to be able to just snap that on there and get that. Someone was telling me that he's not related to Khabib. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that for certain, but I don't know about all that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure either. But I assume that he was because of the last name. Maybe it's just more of an assumption, but because you see that last name so common, Yeah. So, but yeah, man, that was just he actually won performance of the night for that fight as well. So, onto the middle of the card was Michel Pereira defeating Andre Fiallo by decision, and that was a good fight. It was a good fight. I mean, if you're a Michel Pereira fan, it was a good fight. Fiallo did a good job in the first round, but it just seemed like he couldn't find his footing after that. Pereira was all over the place, and there was some shots though that Fiallo was still in the fight. It was never that he was never out of the fight. It was just more that Pereira just has such a all over the place style that it's really hard to adjust to. And Fiallo did a really good job of keeping his composure throughout the whole fight and not letting that get to his head. I mean, even in the third round, Pereira threw a flying knee out of nowhere, and Fiallo was able to keep that distance away from him and then hit him with a right hand after that really hard right hand.
And those front kicks to the body of Fiallo by Pereira, I think that definitely made a big change. Pereira was playing the long game in that one. Yeah. And when he was landing those shots, you could see that Fiallo wasn't making the adjustments, wasn't changing his stance, and he was just letting that shot be wide open the whole fight. And come the third round, because I think the commentators kept saying like, "Oh, being on your back foot, backing up like Pereira is very exhausting." And I was like, I think he's always fighting like this, so I don't think he's gonna have really too much of a problem with that. And then by the third round, it's Fiallo who's exhausted. Yeah. And it's because he was taking all those shots to the body that was disrupting his breathing. Yeah. You see his arms drop. Yeah. Pretty early, I think, in the second round. He just can't hold him up anymore because he's taking too much beating to the body. But yeah, very good fight.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an exciting fight when Pereira fights. I mean, it's something that I will always tune into his fights. I am excited to see the day when he starts headlining fight nights, And so I'm excited to see Fialho back though. He's really durable. Daniel Cormier hits hard. Yeah, Daniel Cormier talks about they used to train together, and so whenever he said that, I knew for a fact that he was going to be a very composed fighter and was not going to be very sloppy, you know. And but Pereira is showing his he's really showing that his experience whenever he fights guys like that, that he's ready for these top guys, you know. So, you know, start moving up the ladder, start moving up the food chain in the welterweight division, because the welterweight division is stacked. It's not an easy division to break into at all. So we'll definitely see more of him. Well, hopefully both of them really soon. So on to the co-main event. This one fight of the night, and I can definitely see why. It was Deiveson Figueiredo defeating Brandon Moreno by decision, and this was, in my opinion, I don't agree with the decision at all.
Same here.
So
we're all in good company here.
Yeah, it's one of the things where I thought Moreno when it came down to, I understand he was knocked down a couple times in the fight, but when it came down to significant strikes, he was landing the better shots. Figueiredo was reacting a lot more to the shots than Moreno was. Even when when he got tagged by Figueiredo, it was a lot. He took a little bit to react to it, but each time he would touch Figueiredo would wobble.
Yeah, I really want to I haven't yet. I really want to look at the numbers from that fight, because I feel like the judging is always all over the place. Yeah. Like one night they'll be judging based off of damage, one night they'll be judging based off of number of strikes, and then I don't know what they were judging off of that night. I really freaking don't. Because I feel like damage, I think, goes both ways. They were both landing plenty of shots on each other, and I think that Moreno did get knocked down a few times, so I don't think that but I don't think that fight was judged by knockdowns or damage, because the rounds, each judge gave the different rounds to different people.
Right.
So it's really hard to kind of figure out what they were doing.
Yeah.
Who watched what fight.
And that's the thing is, like, what comes down to the fight, and we see it a lot. We see it enough to where it stands out, you know, is the inconsistent judging. Is like, what are we going to be judging based off of? Because I want to say that, you know, when we talk with Jeremy Milbourne about this, is that you know, if a leg kick is checked in Muay Thai, it doesn't count, right? And so there was a lot of those kicks did get checked, and a lot did land as well. But it's like, you know, when it comes down to striking numbers and all that, is like, you know, why are we counting checked leg kicks as something, or blocked strikes as something, you know? You know, Figueiredo, my opinions, he won rounds 2, 4, and 5. I gave Figueiredo the first round and the third round. So it's just really all over the place. But I mean, the question is what happens now? Where do we go from here?
It has to be a fourth fight.
And that's the thing is, like, you know, you don't want to see division get clogged, but I don't know. It's hard because these fights
for that, right?
These fights are so fun though.
Yeah,
and that's I get what you're saying, that it's too late, because I mean,
it's already been clogged. So let's just freaking, you know what? If there needs to be a fourth fight, let them solve it.
Yeah, I think if Figueiredo wins in Mexico, though, they're gonna kill him. That's a hot take, but yeah.
Cartel or just
100%, 100%. Yeah. You know, they tried to kill Fabricio Verdum.
I remember
not the cartel, but somebody tried to. Yeah.
That was the same night that he and Tony Ferguson fought on the same card.
No, when he was fighting Cain Velasquez in Mexico City, he was staying out there to get used to.
Didn't Tony Ferguson fight on that card?
No. That was the Lee versus Ferguson card when they fought on the same card.
Oh, okay.
But I was thinking about the whole thing right now. I was like, oh, shut up before I ankle pick you. But it's like, so there has to be a fourth fight, though. I mean, I understand you want the division to move on, but a lot of these guys that they want to give the title shot to, like Askarov versus Cara Francis for the title eliminator, that fight's not happening till like March, you know? Let's see who else is fighting. Like Matt Schnell versus Alex Perez. I think that's a great fight coming up as well. Matt Schnell wins that fight, he's in the contender talk at that point. And who else is supposed to be fighting? Pantoja and I feel like I'm trying to remember Pantoja has a fight booked. I just Askarov, I believe. No, it's Cara Francis and Askarov are fighting for the title eliminator. And I mean, Brandon Royval just had a great fight. And so, there's these fighters that are kind of waiting around, but there's not really a clear title contender besides Moreno at the moment anyways.
Yeah.
And I can watch these dudes fight 10 fucking times, and I'll never be tired of it. and like these guys just go at it. They have fun, and I think that's kind of what hurt Brandon Moreno in there. Is it was crazy seeing how confident he was because he never shows that confidence in the fight. But like he has confidence, but he was never very visible, you know. And with that fight, I just I think that's kind of what kind of took away from him, signifying his win in that fight. Because in that first round, he was kind of toying with him a little bit, keeping his chin down, chin up, hands down, kind of stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I thought Moreno won that fight, and they need to run it back because it's the only thing that's gonna make that title picture clear at that point.
Yeah. And then if say you don't say that Davis Figueiredo goes on another tear like you did before, but this time they're title defenses, everyone's just gonna say, okay, but what about Moreno?
Yeah,
like you need to go clear that up, and that's gonna become the story of his career if he doesn't have that fight again. Yeah. Which I know he called for it immediately after, so it's not like he doesn't want it.
Yeah,
it's all gonna be up to the UFC at this point. But
so I mean,
do it.
So hopefully we'll see a clear title picture in that one. But when Figueiredo won that belt, Dana White put the belts around him, and that is foreshadowing that he was not there to put the belt around Francis Ngannou. So I don't know what happened right there.
Dana did put the belt around Figueiredo.
Mm-hmm. Huh. He put it over his shoulder, and he was not there to do it for Francis Ngannou. So leading into the main event, it's a good gateway.
What a segue!
Yeah,
you're like a real talk show guy, Devin.
Exactly. I'm like a storyteller or something, Like, we should do this for a living. And so the main event was a great main event. It was Francis Ngannou defeating Ciryl Gane by decision in a fight that was actually really back and forth, a lot more than you realize. Yeah. I had Ciryl Gane winning rounds 1 and 2, and then Ngannou took the rest of the fight based off of wrestling.
I had it the same, and I think... the wrestling took everybody by surprise. I don't think anyone expected that. That takedown, the slam.
Yeah.
That was wild.
Dude, that was a strong fucking slam. That was great. The way he picked him up.
The whizzer that he got whenever...
the whizzer kick.
Yeah. Yeah. When Ciryl Gane face planted when it happened.
Yeah. I don't think he was even expecting that.
No.
And then, the highlight, for me, my favorite round was the 5th round. Yeah. They went to the ground, and then Ciryl Gane goes for a heel hook, and... I'm all for submissions. You gotta do what you gotta do to win. Goes for a heel hook, but just the timing of the heel hook couldn't have been in any more less of his favor.
Ill-advised.
Yeah. He goes for a heel hook in the 5th round on a guy that's covered in sweat.
Yeah.
And he just slips right out of it, and you just see the defeat on Ciryl Gane's face at that point. And he was still attacking with submissions, but there was a sweep that Francis had in the 5th round, and it's like, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah.
Like, where
Francis Ngannou Medov.
Yeah.
I saw me.
Ngannou Medov.
I butchered it. Yeah.
So,
you did it though.
I don't know how I did it, honestly. That hurt my head. But I was going to joke around when you agree with me on the rounds. I was going to say, we need to start disagreeing more and make this shit entertaining or something.
No, screw that. We know what we're talking about.
But it's, when it comes down to it though, man, it was a great performance by Francis Ngannou. It was a great performance by Ciryl Gane. You saw that Ngannou didn't have an answer for his stand-up. And we did find out, though, that Ngannou has a serious knee injury towards MCL and his ACL. And that really takes away a lot of your movement when you can't use that force that travels from your feet up all the way to your hands,
Yeah.
And you could kind of see it. It was he wasn't really throwing those punches. He wasn't really putting much footwork into it. He said he couldn't switch stances much because of it, because if he was to get kicked into the knee, it would cause irreversible damage. That's what the doctor had said. And he came in with my guess was, whenever we were watching it, was that he was planning to wrestle. That's why he had the rash guards on, or the knee guards on. And
why else?
Yeah, I mean, he was going for takedowns, but coming to find out, it was because, well, also going for takedowns, but he had a serious knee injury. So, but to think though that Ngannou was suffering with a serious injury and still was able to pull off the win over Ciryl Gane is insane.
And Ciryl Gane, if you ever hear this, calf slicer. Just go for the calf slicer. You have someone, you're in someone's guard and they got your legs high up into your armpit.
Yeah.
You just take that leg and calf slicer.
Imagine you turn it into like a Boston crab. Dude, that'd be so cool.
The Walls of Jericho.
Yeah, just Walls of Jericho start shaking his head. It's just that'd be so great, dude. One of the things was, like, I always enjoy watching MMA fights with some of our friends, is just because like our buddy Andy, he doesn't really watch the sport, and he'll say it himself, I'm a casual. And he was cracking me up with I mean, Ngannou's head coach is kind of, his name is slipping my mind right now, but he's like, this guy looks like Booker T. I was like, is it because of the dreads? He's like, yeah. And then he starts talking, and you can hear him talking, and he kind of sounds like Booker T a little bit.
It's Dewey Cooper, Francis's boxing coach.
And he's a former boxer and MMA fighter as well. And so
he's been with Francis for a very long time.
Yeah, and he also trained Kevin Lee as well. And we were cracking up, but then of course out of nowhere they showed the live tweets, and Booker T happens to live tweet the fight, and I was like, this is just makes it even better. Like, man, I don't know, I love Booker T.
Well, if we're shouting out Andy, I want to shout out Jake for getting the card.
Yeah, man, thank you, Jake, for putting down $75. He also wanted me to spread the message to everybody. We got to start chipping in. He's like, $75 too fucking much, dude.
Oh yeah.
And I started laughing. I was like, I 100% agree. I was like,
if he asks, then you got it.
I think he was joking when he said it, but I also know that, hey man, these cards are expensive. Now just one person can buy a fucking card anymore. ESPN.
Yeah. Because $75 for something that 10 years ago was, what, 50?
45.
45?
Yeah.
Give me a freaking break.
Yeah. And that's a big thing to clear up too, though. It's not the UFC making these prices. It's ESPN. And I think that's something that ESPN really needs to reconsider, but they're not going to. They're
ESPN. Why would they?
Exactly. And so leading off with not really with the end of the card. So what do we do now with the heavyweight division? I mean, Ngannou's already openly said he's not re-signing.
We have a heavyweight tournament, and this takes a lot of restructuring and probably rescheduling some fights. Mm-hmm. The winner, because I think it's too soon, but the winner of Derek Lewis, Tai Tuivasa, Stipe Miocic, Cyril Gane, John Jones, who else we got? You throw Volkov in there? I wouldn't.
Volkov is in there, but I mean, I throw Tom Aspinall in there.
If he can be recovered in time, yeah.
Is he injured?
He's injured.
Oh, I didn't
He pulled out of a fight recently.
That's right.
Yeah. There's a good amount of people that I think would be exciting, and you could have a couple wild cards in there. Hey, Dawkins, bring them back. Put them in there as a wild card. See what happens.
Wild card, bitch. Fucking. All I can think of is Always Sunny when you say that.
Think of the story if they had a title tournament for the heavyweight division, and the last two contestants in this tournament are Dawkins and Lewis.
Dude.
And then Dawkins wins. Can you imagine?
Well, so the thing is, this is why I kind of wish tournaments still worked, but they don't, is because these are these guys are like, top tier athletes. They're great fighters, but there's a lot of time off in between their fights, understandably so.
Well, take a page from PFL.
Yeah.
Plan like 4 events.
Yeah.
So that you can get the title fight.
Yeah.
Maybe for a year you're not going to have a heavyweight champion, but what a fun way to work up to one. Yeah. And one that keeps people involved too. Yeah. It keeps people invested. I mean, they're going to keep wanting to watch because they're like, man, one of these guys is going to be the champion. Which one is it going to be?
Yeah.
Think of the betting odds you get. Think of all, like, people would be putting their money on some people early on.
Well, what I would change though is I would put Stipe versus Jones. That's what I would change out.
You would put that early? I wouldn't put that early.
I wouldn't put it early, but I would put Stipe versus Jones and Tuivasa versus Lewis. I would have Cyril Gane sitting on the sidelines just for a bit, just because he just fought for
the title. In
a tournament, I would probably put him...
Oh, well, that's what we're talking about. I thought you were saying put that as the starting fights in the tournament. I was like, no.
Well, so we're going to do like a 4-man tournament. If we're going to include Cyril Gane, we're going to include three other fighters.
You got to do like 4 fights.
Yeah. 4 fights would be perfect, because then you get your 2 fighters all right there. It'd be a semifinal, then right to the final. And then, I mean, you could do an 8-man, I mean, to kind of even some things out for some fighters.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do 4 fights.
Curtis Blades, that's another guy that's still up there. Put him against Cyril Gane.
I feel like Blades and Volkov.
I think they've already fought.
So it'd be a rematch. But that could be an early one, because these 2 guys, they're falling back.
Yeah.
But they are both good enough to put their names back in there.
Yeah.
Have them fight either themselves or a top contender.
Right.
Whoever John Jones would fight would be an interesting matchup because we finally get to see John Jones in heavyweight.
Yeah. He was saying a lot of stuff about the fight after. He's like, these guys can't compete with me.
Yeah. Well, till we see it, we'll never know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't compare a light heavyweight John Jones to a heavyweight Ciryl Gane.
Exactly.
And so, also, I mean, the thing is, like, you can, after Francis came out and talked about his injury, I mean, it's pretty, it was pretty relevant it was pretty obvious now that you think about it. He gassed pretty early. It seemed like he was gassed pretty early. Didn't move very well, like I talked about. And so it's crazy that we didn't see Ngannou at his best, and he was still able to pull off the win. So it's just, I don't know what's gonna happen with Francis Ngannou. He seemed very happy after the win.
Yeah.
He seemed like he has no regrets to not re-signing with the UFC as well. And
he apparently ignored a $7 million deal by the UFC, strictly out of principle.
Yeah.
We have some Fury Fights amateur series that we're really excited about. Couple of our people we've talked with before, David Wynn.
I'm having a good time over here. Sorry, go ahead.
And Oliver Jimenez headlining the card. They're going to be making their second fight, and we're really excited for it because what we're going to get a lot of is some really fun striking. We know David has some great jiu-jitsu, but we for sure know that he's got refined stand-up.
Yeah, he does.
And
he's a fucking Metro Fight Club guy, man. He's got hands for days. Those dudes have hands for days. Like, it is insane watching those guys box because the way that they transition traditional boxing over to MMA is absolutely insane. And David Nguyen, he has a... Sorry. David Nguyen has a insane right hand. He has a great right hand. I mean, we saw him drop it in that fight, and
after getting up onto his feet.
Yeah,
I mean, it's very impressive.
Yeah. I remember sitting here talking with him, man. I mean, 40 exactly. He's 40 years old.
He's knocking people out.
Yeah, and he's in phenomenal shape. It's insane. I remember sitting here even when we had lunch with him, just talking with him and asking him certain questions about his fight, and he was like, "Man, I would have never thought someone would ask me that about the fight." I asked him about what it was like. Do the gloves interrupt the rear naked at all? The rear naked choke, because he almost had it in his fight, and he was like, I would have not expected that question. And it was crazy because he's such a cool dude and he's so down to earth, you know. And sitting there asking questions about his fight and talking about he lives by the philosophy that your body is a temple, and he's living proof of that.
Temple construction. Yeah, check it out.
Please do. He offers great deals he makes health and fitness very affordable for the average person, and that's something that you can always admire in somebody is having someone create these resources for somebody, and I'm excited to finally see him fight.
Yeah. We weren't able to catch his first one, but we did get to watch the video of it.
Yeah.
Not disappointing at all.
Not at all. If you have time this Sunday, please come by to Fury UFC.
Escapade 2001?
Yeah, right there. And it's right outside Aldine, I believe. Tickets, I believe, are $55 still. Yeah. And I'm not sure what the price will be at the door, but they're always great fights.
And the Escapade's not a bad venue. I was pretty happy with it last time.
I had a great time. I really enjoyed it more than the Buffalo Bayou Center. I said it. Yeah, I said it. But it's just because I also
say something so brave yet so
so controversial. But the reason why though, I mean, maybe I have that opinion because we got really good seats when we went.
Yeah, we got there pretty early.
And so we got there very early enough for them to tell us that y'all gotta go wait in the car.
No. But yeah, so headlining is going to be Oliver Jimenez with some pretty impeccable Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Very excited to watch him fight live. He fought on the same card as David, so we weren't able to make it.
Right.
Again, though, we saw video and very impressed, just like I have been with his Muay Thai career.
Yeah.
And he's also got a Muay Thai tournament set up. Very big one. It's going to be in Denver, Colorado. He's got some pretty big announcements as well coming up soon that we hope that we can get him on here to announce.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really excited to finally see him fight live. Oliver Jimenez has been fighting for a very long time. He has made a name for himself in the Muay Thai community. training right there with Michael Chase Corley, and now he is training MMA not only at Metro Fight Club but now with Eve Edwards.
Yeah,
and he's training partners with Matt Schnell, who's been around the game for a while. He gets to sharpen his tools every time he walks in the gym with phenomenal Muay Thai fighters like Jeremy Moborn, Becca Irwin, Jacob Rodriguez. I mean, the list goes on with the amount of talent that he has surrounded by him.
And that's just his heritage. And then you go over to Metro.
Yeah.
And he's got all those guys.
You got, Adrian Yanez, Jacob Silva, Leomano Martinez,
David Wynn.
And there's a fighter that's slipping my mind right now.
Cameron Smotherman?
It's Cameron Smotherman as well, So, I mean, it's crazy to just know who this guy is training with on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
And you see his skills put on display. Like, whenever I think I've talked with you about him, I think I say it all the time we talk about Oliver's fights, is when you watched his amateur MMA debut, it looked like he was just levels above that guy. Yeah. It's like, why are you fighting amateur? You need
he's
to go
a pro already. He's a pro who just has to catch up.
Yeah, he's just pretty much just getting his reps in right now. And I mean, dude, the sheer talent that he possesses when he walks in there, he's so great at what he does, And
that's no bias, folks.
Yeah, that is not bias at all. I mean, you watch him fight.
It's the same thing when we talk about Carlos. We try to explain people like, hey, when you watch him fight, it's different when you watch it live.
Yeah.
So I'm just telling you now, you're going to be impressed. And then after the fight, everybody's like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I know. We told you. We weren't just being nice.
I saw Carlos is right now. He's in California right now.
Right now he's in LA or North Hollywood, LA area. Yeah. Doing some training, getting his camp in for his next fight. It's going to be in February. So, yeah, lots of things from these Pasadena boys.
Yeah, and I'm all for it, man. We need to change it. We need to forget about the Stinkadena name, and we need to bring some good juju our way.
We'll have to come up with a fun name.
Get down, Dina?
No, I don't like that. Never like that, actually.
Me either. It's way too long.
Yeah.
So.
But, yeah, look out for the upcoming Fury card. It's going to be good. Y'all take care.